Another episode of the Peg City Soundoff on the first Saturday night we've had it. Must be special. Tonight we got the Radiant on. Now, anyone who was at the Park Theatre show for the Northern Royals EP release would know this band as they stole the hearts of everyone in there that night. And people are still talking about it. I just said before we went live, they're still talking about it last Thursday. It's awesome. So, got the Radiant here. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
I'm Michaela. I'm our lead singer and one of our guitar players.
Hey, I'm Mike. I play keys and saxophone.
I'm Jordan, and I'm the drummer.
Excellent, excellent. How about a little history of your band for anyone who doesn't know you?
We have been playing together as a group of friends as the Radiant for 5 years now. We started as an old project called Soft Cotton 5 years before that. So we've been this kind of grouping of people for the most part for almost 10 years. And we kind of said, what from that project, wrote a bunch of new music and thought, this is a new sound. We need to rebrand this. And thus was born the Radiant.
Awesome. Just kind of touching on the sound. I wasn't too familiar with you. I'd heard a couple songs before I saw you. Was it last month there? And, I say you kind of stole the hearts of Winnipeg that night. I think it was something fresh and new, and not to take anything from Omens or Northern Royals. They're fantastic. You came in with a different sound, though, and really, I'm going to focus in on the keys and the sax for a minute, because I don't think anyone expected that.
Yeah.
It's a fresh sound to hear. What got you that? What got you into that sound? What was the? I don't know. What made you think of coming up with a sound like that?
Well, it was kind of just what came naturally to all of us. Like, we all naturally played these instruments. I'm like a music education major and a music teacher, and so I played saxophone. So I always just wanted to find ways to naturally put the things that I do in there. And I mean, as far as the keys go, if you ever dive back into Soft Cotton, I played all saxophone. So if you love the saxophone, take a listen to that album, because it's all me on saxophone. But when the keys got introduced to everything, it was fun just playing around with the different sounds and all the different patches, and it just started to create a new atmosphere for everything. And I feel like that was part of what kind of transpired to shift the Radiant's direction.
Mm-hmm. The first song we wrote was Deadhead. And I think that was kind of one of the first times that we all brought our backgrounds. And Jordan actually wasn't with us for that first album. It was a drummer named Brady Kerwin. He was excellent. We loved having him on board. And he had a pop punk background. I kind of had this singer-songwriter background. And then Evan and Paul are in another great band called The Basement Paintings, which is this really technical instrumental prog. So then that also gets added into it. And we all just kind of have these very unique influences that when you put it all together, I don't think there was really an intention for it to be this is going to be the sound. It just kind of happened.
Awesome. Your bass player is absolutely insane on stage too. He's fantastic. One of my band members was with me that night. He's the bass player, and he kept his eyes on him the whole time. He's like, this guy's phenomenal.
Yeah, we feel very
lucky.
Yeah. For sure. So just jumping into your releases so far, 2 EPs out, I believe, 2.
Yeah.
Logical Steps and just a self-titled one from 2019, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's touch on the Logical Steps. How did that one come about?
Oh, after that first one, well, as the pandemic kind of hit, everyone was just trying to find their footing back through the industry. And that's when Jordan kind of jumped on board with us in 2020. And we started writing Logical Steps. And even with Jordan's type of drumming, it just kind of, again, took this different path where it started to kind of solidify our sound. So with what we were doing, Logical Steps, I guess the dad joke behind it was that it was the next best logical step to take was to release these 4 songs. Maybe it wasn't a full album at that point, but just we need to have content out there.
But
And
it was
that's
kind of a
kinda-
decent snapshot into our minds at the time, where the direction we were heading, the things we were kind of being influenced by, and I think it's kind of accumulating into some of the stuff we're working on now. So I think it's a good snapshot into that period of time, like just coming out of COVID, doing shows again.
Mm. You know, some of the previous episodes as well with some of the bands have been. We've touched on the COVID thing. What was your life through COVID?
I would say honestly, we all took some time for ourselves. Like we had been pushing the Radiant at that time. Like we were starting to get a lot of momentum. 2020 brought us like a Breakout West nomination for Rock Artist of the Year off that first EP. So when the pin, I'm going to say, kind of got pulled from that, I think we all just kind of were like, all right, like none of us are really sure what this looks like right now. And maybe it's the perfect opportunity for us to just kind of find what we all like to do in our spare time. And there was probably like a good few months where like, yeah, we didn't really do much. And then, as things started kind of coming back together after like a couple months, and we just got back together and we needed a new drummer at the time. And that's when, again, he jumped on and we wrote Project Mastermind in 2020.
Which is a single between those two EPs that we often even forget about sometimes. Like, oh, right, there's that one song too that's between the two.
Yeah, it kind of speaks to how weird that time was. Like that, we do end up forgetting about that Project Mastermind a lot. Yeah, it happened in kind of a weird in-between phase.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting with the bands I've talked to, just a different experience. A lot of people went into writing. There's some that kind of went their own ways and took a year to do things, and some bands were releasing stuff, and it's different. Everyone actually has a different answer to it. So,
and it's like it was one of those times where maybe some people found like, oh, I have all this writing inspiration that I could just get out and I need to express myself through this time. I kind of went into this mode of like, when am I ever going to have 3 months off to just go bike around my city and like golf and have fun? Like, let's just, do that for a while. And that actually, it's great because going into Logical Steps, I think that time did somehow in a roundabout way spark a lot of inspiration for that album.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, we didn't like see the need to like do like online shows or anything. Like we wanted everything to just kind of breathe for a bit because there was a lot happening, all at once, and between everything,
no, for sure. So I believe it was last week, Art Kids was released.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Friday the 13th.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Right about the 3-minute 40-second mark, you almost think it's coming to an end, but you got another 2 minutes going. It's a good song. I love it. I've listened to it a few times today. Obviously, since the release of it. So, what can you tell us about the maybe even just the recording of that? Do you do any home recording, or do you do studio, or?
Logical Steps was home recording. Like a lot of our other stuff was like, home recording and then just sent away for mastering. But this time we have Ryan Anderson on board and Ryan Dahl, who's doing the mastering. And so we're doing it all studio this time. Our hands are in it producing, but it's, totally different experience this time around.
You said Ryan Dahl. Is that like Age of Electric Ryan Dahl?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Limb Lifter and
Limb Lifter, awesome.
Yeah.
I wonder what he was doing.
Yeah, and
used to love
he's,
that.
I think, still playing a lot of music. But our friend Ryan Anderson, who's doing the producing, recording, and everything. What I like to do if I'm having someone record me, well, how is it going to sound the best? I ask them, who do you like to work with for that next phase? Because then I know it's going to have a really great consistency and
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's a great song. So, sorry, just to step back to your show in Winnipeg. One question I had for you, because it is one of my favorite songs from them. You did a cover of Only from Nine Inch Nails. What came about with that? Why that song of all songs from Nine Inch Nails?
I think I liked it. I've been listening to it for a whole bunch, and Evan was playing Closer all the time at Jam, and I was like, oh, well, we should do a Nine Inch Nails song. Like that would be dope. But everybody always does like, the Hannah Feeds or like Closer, that kind of thing. And it's like, well, why don't we pick this like rando sexy ass B-side? And present that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. You really made it. You really made it your own. Anyone who didn't know it was a cover like would have thought it was your own. It has a great sound, and it really meshes with your sound as well. So
I think that's part of it too. Like we listen to songs and we have like more options. So like if we hear a saxophone, we can be like, oh, we can do that. Like we have a saxophone. Or like when there's like a lot of heavy like electronic keys stuff. I have fun doing that stuff. Like if you see me on stage, I have like 3 different keyboards on there, and I love it when I can just play around with all of them as many times as I can in one song.
yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. It was great to hear. And you're right. A lot of people do handed feeds, or it's usually the same things if someone's going to do it. That's just that was a rarity. It was good.
Hell yeah.
So you're from Saskatchewan, Saskatoon?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what can you tell us about in previous on this podcast and the Boneyard one I run as well. I don't run it, I work for them. We talk a lot about the Winnipeg scene, and it's been a lot of promotional stuff for the Winnipeg scene. What can you tell us about the Saskatchewan scene?
What do you want to know about it, I guess?
I found a big push for hard rock in the city, and I live right in the heart of it. I'm just down the street from the Park Theater, the Osborne Tap House. I'm in a pretty good area for music in the city, and there's just been this surge of heavy music, and we got the Loud Awards coming up next Saturday at the Park Theater, and it just basically showcases a lot of these heavier bands in the city, right? So that's one thing we've really focused on is just the hard rock scene in Winnipeg, and how it's really taken off the last couple of years. What's it like in Saskatchewan? Is it a hard rock world? Is it a country world?
It's a big country world. A lot of folk, a lot of like singer-songwriter stuff. Like that is a huge like prevalent market here. Like you can always do well in Saskatchewan as a country artist. But I would say like for the alternative scene, our punk scene's pretty good. Our like heavy death metal scene's like pretty good. Like we have Black Cat Tavern that's always hosting like punk and really heavy shows. But then we have like a couple like mid-sized venues where it's quite a mix. In terms of like alternative music, there's really only like, I would say a few bands that like I'm super familiar with, or like that kind of like heavy alternative. It's a real mixed bag here, but I would definitely say like that country stereotype does shine.
It's definitely the bread and butter.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I get it. We got we got some country artists that are coming out pretty good in Winnipeg itself too, but it sounds like country always takes number one. It's been like that for a bit, so not surprised when you're not too far away from here that we're kind of with the same mesh here. So
yeah.
How about go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say it's nice to see the rock coming back into trending again.
And because like again, it is that like even with what we're doing or what I'm looking for, it is that something fresh. It is that something new. It's not like a revival of something, which is something I'm seeing a lot right now. Like the revival of the emo scene or the revival of like a lot of 90s music. Like that's really big. But yeah, it's nice when you can kind of just have something a little fresh.
Yeah, for sure. I had a band on last week called Sunbreather from Winnipeg, but they're kind of like a funk. It's weird. They're like a funk grunge band.
Oh, cool.
Really, it's like Chili Peppers does Nine Inch Nails, or not Nine Inch, Alice in Chains.
Oh, sweet.
And yeah, it's really different. So this is really neat to have a band like that last week that has a different sound, and then having you this week has a different sound, and it's it's a lot different, and it's just good to see such a wide range of music, especially in our prairies, right?
I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
I do feel like because of that in the prairies, we like as like I'm a heavy musicians start like 10 steps back because it's like we don't have access to the same amount of people, like even in Winnipeg that maybe you do, or even like, if you're in Toronto, like you can kind of find a crowd with whatever it is you're doing where like, yeah, you really got to win them over, gotta work for it.
That being said, like I've said time and time again, it's interesting watching a crowd as we play I think as like a band offering a somewhat new sound, because you can tell a lot of the times like it's not for everybody. Some people are not interested, but the people who are like very engaged, and you can almost be certain that they'll look you up afterwards or have a conversation with you after the show. And not throwing shade, but like there's a lot of bands you hear on a weekend night, and you're like, that was a good band, but won't necessarily go and seek them out afterwards. So I think it's true that like it does feel like you maybe don't start with that same level of like palatability, but it is cool to see like how engaged the people who are in are really in, and that's cool to see.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, like for myself, seeing you, I think every member of the band captivated me in a way. Your bass player is just, he's doing this thing over there. It's awesome. Obviously the keys, the sax, it's crazy. It's such a great sound to bring into it. Michaela, your stage performance, vocals, they're just great. And, the drums, everything. You're a guitarist. I was on the side where the guitarist was, and he has a very Cure, like the band The Cure. It's a very Cure style sound, and I'm a big Cure fan, of course. And and it kind of captivated me there because I thought this guy's got some Cure vibes, whether he knows it or whether he's into that or not. He's got Cure vibes. You can tell.
And I am going to shout out to him because, of course, he's not here, and I don't think he would even bring this up himself.
Yeah.
So Paul is a guitar builder. So Evan's bass on stage, he built. The guitar he was playing, he built. He works primarily for Dingwall and like does all the finishing and or at the time, I think a couple years ago was doing all the finishing. I think he's moved on to a bit of a more intense role now, but also builds his own line of guitars called Hilliker Guitars. And whoever's listening out there, including yourself, I'm just like, go look up Hilliker Guitars because that boy has skills like world class, like just unreal.
Something special.
Yeah. So just have to pump up Paul's tires for a minute.
No, for sure. You got to check that out. So does he build like amps too, or just guitars?
Just guitars. But
okay.
I feel like he probably could work on an amp if we needed to.
Expand.
Looking for an amp right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just kind of where I was talking about with performance wise, live show. I can't say much more about the live show. Is just fantastic. What do you have lined up? I saw there was some about Breakout West.
Yeah. So next week we're doing 2 showcases at Breakout West. We have one on Thursday, the 26th at Buds on Broadway. We play at 11:30 p.m. We're closing out the night that night. And then, no, we're not actually. Never mind. Sorry. But anyway, and then the next night, the 27th, we're at Amigos at 11 o'clock as well. So 2 showcase shows there, which will be good. And then after that, we're kind of working up something right now for a bit of like a secret show in Saskatoon where kind of our gift to the audience will be playing, because it's around Christmas time, we'll be playing the new album from front to back in like a really intimate setting.
Unreleased at that time.
Yeah,
so
unreleased.
The first time for people to hear it all the way front to back.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, and then after that, trying to think if we have... Oh, and then just the album release, February 1st will be the show for that. The album comes out January 31st. And then just trying to kind of get our footing underneath us after Breakout West, kind of check in with where everyone's at. Because right now we're really focused on just finishing this album and putting our money to where it's best used. And that's right now towards recording, because I'm sure as many other artists have talked about, touring is so difficult, especially in Canada. Like maybe, we're just looking for something a little different or something like that, but it is just so expensive between hotels and gas and just it's wild, and hoping that you can maybe recoup some of those costs. So in terms of like booking anything big where we hope to come back out to Winnipeg sooner than later, it's just one of those things where we have to just make sure that we can fund it properly so we can always bring you the best of ourselves as well.
Yeah, so if we like make an album, then hopefully we can like get out to a festival or something out there and like really have a lot of songs to gain some clout with a lot of different people.
And ideally, that's kind of our goal. Like, we would love to be the people who write music, release it, and are able to hit that festival circuit. Because those shows, like in my mind, I think are so much more like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to use the word worth it, but
Efficient?
like you gain, more efficient, instead of playing to, maybe 5 people at O'Hanlon's in Regina. Granted, you need to do that and play to those 5
And that was
people.
a fun time. We had a
so
great
fun.
time.
And we actually played a great set. I think because it was more casual, like, it was like nothing to prove. We're just,
and we still even got a few people like, oh yeah, we loved you. Like, it was-
yeah. But it's just one of those things where it'd be nice to, hit that festival circuit, efficient shows. So that when we do want to go on that nice, bring your own headline tour, you know, you have some beef there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. Do you have is there a good festival circuit in Saskatchewan?
Surprisingly, actually. There's Nest Creek. We did that this year. There's Gateway. There's Dog Patch. There's Craven. That wouldn't necessarily be us, but like that's one. There's Doyle Fest. There's so many.
Arts councils too are pretty good about sending people around Saskatchewan playing shows in different like rural areas too.
Cool. Does Craven not have like we have our Dauphin Country Fest here, and it's like Country Fest, but they have it's like a side stage, I guess, and like the Northern Royals played there this year, and a couple of heavy bands actually went out there. They had like a rock thing going on.
Cool.
It's pretty neat. It's not just a country thing, and it's funny because this year was really like old school country, like Alabama, and like it was old school country. They're throwing rock groups in there, and it's pretty neat. But I guess it kind of makes it for everyone. So
I agree, which I think like you should do. I bet you like Craven or Country Thunder is probably like, we don't need more audience members. We have enough.
Yeah. I think Craven's the big one, eh?
Yeah, I think something like 25,000 people go.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So just kind of touching on back with the band, and we talked about the sound and everything. Some of your influences growing up, or some bands you're listening to still, care to talk about some?
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, Mike. Look at you. Like, what order are we going in?
Oh, you don't want to know mine from childhood.
No, I'm still listening to the same shit. Like, I've been like listening to Tool and Deftones and all that kind of stuff for a very long time. And then I have a bit of like a, that kind of like folky side too that pops through. And like from Winnipeg, like one of my favorite artists right now. I mean, it's not from high school or anything, but like Boy Golden is just like, love that guy. Great music. So it's, but yeah, definitely older stuff. I'd say I haven't stopped listening to like Deftones, Incubus, and Tool.
Did Deftones have a bad album?
No.
Okay.
No miss.
I don't think so. I haven't heard one.
It's like the biggest debate, like there's always any Tool debate of this is better, and yada yada. But one debate I've heard is the Deftones don't have a bad album. And I'm like, wow, okay. I haven't listened to every Deftones album, but from what I heard is they're all good. But yeah, so one debate I've heard is that they don't have a bad album. Prove me wrong.
We have someone else here
Paul.
now. Paul's here.
Oh, perfect.
Hey.
Paul, would you like to answer the last question?
Sure.
Does Deftones have a bad album?
Oh, not that I know of.
Paul, you're the guitarist in the band?
Yeah.
I was just talking about how you're when I saw you in Winnipeg here, you had a very Cure-esque thing going on. I really like the guitar playing. I'm a big Cure fan, and when I saw you play it, I thought there's a Cure thing, whether he knows it or not. There's a Cure thing going on here.
Oh, and, cool. No, actually, I'm not super familiar with the Cure.
Oh,
yeah. So
should look into it a bit. But and we also they also plugged your Hilliker guitars.
Oh, nice.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna check that out after. So,
Cool.
yeah. So, influences. How about yourself? Influences, any bands you listened to growing up that you maybe still listen to?
That I still listen to. Actually, I don't listen to a ton of music these days on the regular, but probably some of the biggest influences would be Pink Floyd and Tool, Deftones, Lucifer, A Perfect Circle.
Awesome. You see the tour they're going on right now, eh?
A Perfect Circle, or
Yeah, with
Oh, this is Santa Volume 2.
with Lucifer.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Probably.
Les Claypool's band. Who's that?
Yeah.
Anyway, pretty cool though.
I got
Awesome.
to see that in Arizona in April.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it was really good.
Cool. I was in LA. I think I was still in LA, or it was a couple days after they played the Hollywood Bowl, and I was either in there still at the same time or I had just left, but it would have been a cool show to see.
Yeah.
So how about merch? Can people get merch out there?
You can DM the band on Instagram, slide in, and we'll tell you what we got left.
Perfect.
Yeah, but we don't have like an online website or anything like that.
You just got stuff. That's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you may have answered the next question earlier, but I usually end it with what's next for the band. What do you got coming up? But you do have an album coming out on January 31st.
Yes. Yeah.
Where,
that's what's next.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, where does it go from there? Obviously, you're going to, we talked about the trying to get out and play some live shows, tour Canada if you can support it. Yeah. And it's really too bad. Why do you think it's like that in Canada? Do you think, is it just a distance thing?
I think it's how vast we are. You can't hit when you're in Germany or the UK, which is kind of part of our market plan with this album. Again, get some festivals out there. You can get a lot of support that way to go play them, but you can hit within an hour's drive or 2 hours drive, like a city or a town every way, or along your way. So definitely, I think that's a big part of the issue. And we listen to, I've been told this by a couple different people, where in Canada, North America, even, we listen to music differently. Whereas in Europe and the UK, when people listen to music or they go to these shows, I sometimes feel in Saskatchewan, you have to convince people to get up out of their chair, come on, come to the front, come engage. Where
that does happen a lot.
Yeah, whereas we've heard in other countries from other groups where it's not like that. They're so engaged, they're ready to party with you. And so yeah, I think that's part of the reasons.
No, I get that. Any videos you see, especially you can crucify me for this, but I'm a big Oasis fan, always have been, but my dream is to see Oasis in Man City, where I've seen them in Winnipeg, and it was the year they broke up, so 2009 or whatever, and I had this thing where I'm oh my god, it's Oasis, people are gonna go nuts, and it was just kind of people in the first 10 rows kind of cared, and everyone else just kind of stood there. But if you see them play these stadiums in the UK back then, it's the people in the second deck, they're just losing their minds, they're so engaged in it, and you see with anything. I know, well, obviously Taylor Swift was over there, and I know that just captivated the world, but I often wonder the things you hear about the Taylor Swift show here, where people were wearing diapers and stuff going to the show because it was so long. It's you can't hold it. Come on. But you wonder, how did the UK audience react to it?
Yeah, no doubt, hey?
Mm-hmm. Actually, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
I don't know. Americans are wearing diapers. Who knows what they were doing over there? So,
the crazy. Taylor Swift phenomena blows my mind. I don't understand it, but not up to me.
It's crazy. I don't know an artist out there right now that could top that whole thing. And you know what? I could probably name you 4 Taylor Swift songs, and they're probably off the first album, but I really don't know Taylor Swift. But my God, it just took the world by storm. So,
yep, she's our generation's Beatles.
It is, exactly.
If Taylor Swift died, the pandemonium
Oh, it'd
that
be
would
wild.
happen. Amazing.
Anyways, Taylor, call us up. Looking for help.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, it's been Paul. Sorry I came in a bit late here. It's been great talking to you, though. As I said, big fan myself, and you got a lot of fans in Winnipeg. Anyone out there who watches this and doesn't know the Radiant, you got to check them out. Phenomenal band, phenomenal live band. Let's do everything we can to get them back into Winnipeg.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to check them out. And if you were there that night of the Park Theater, the Northern Royals EP release, you'll remember the Radiant, and even up to last week, people are still talking about you. So it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just,
That's so good
it's
to hear.
just
That's
it's
so
great
good
to hear. Great to
Very
hear. So
encouraging.
Yeah.
for sure. Well, once again, appreciate you coming on. Anything else you want to finish off with for your fans out there?
Fans.
Word Radiant, and class is no longer in session for this meeting, I guess.
Awesome.
Oh, jeez.
Great closing statement. All right. Well, you have a good night, and hope we see you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for
Awesome.
having
Yeah,
us.
thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cheers. I don't know how to use a taxi.
We're just gonna let's sit here for an extra 5 minutes
Yeah.
and just stare at the camera live. I was surprised he just left. I thought he was gonna make it not live anymore.